Hey guys, MichaelBtheGameGenie here, and as you know, this is my 10th year on YouTube, and 10th year celebrating Halloween Havoc. So this year, I want to do something really special for longtime fans and viewers of the channel, people who tune in specifically for Halloween Havoc. The only problem is, I kind of don't have anything. I don't know what to do. Well, what do longtime fans of my channel like? You know, you got MichaelB, you've got the Nintendo, you got Halloween, and then you got top 10s. Huh. Maybe I do have something, after all. So that's right, guys, it's going to be a brand new top 10 list. I haven't done one of these in a while, so I'm going to have to dust myself off and see if I still remember how to do it. Today we're doing top 10 scary NES games for Halloween. Now, for those of you familiar with my NES lists, I'm not saying that these are the best games categorically based on their music, gameplay, overall enjoyment. No, I'm just saying these are games I enjoy the most for playing for Halloween, and most of it's based on how stupid and scary they are. Anyways, I also wanted to clarify that with this list, I'm only looking at officially licensed games, so no imports and no unlicensed games are going to be considered. With all that out of the way, let's get moving with the list. Yes, I finally get to talk about Ghoul School on one of these Halloween-type videos. Believe me, this is one that always gets mentioned, but it's just such a shitty and weird game that it's hard to find a reason to tell people to play it other than the sheer ridiculousness of it. Ghoul School is a 1992 release from Electrobrain, which is a publisher I'm sure not too many people are familiar with, and developed by Imagineering. Ghoul School is actually a survival horror game set in a school environment, believe it or not, actually on Halloween itself, which of course makes it perfect for this list. Your character must explore the school, find weapons and items, and take out enemies to survive. It's a really cool concept, and the enemy design is gross and perfect for the spooky season. Where the game falls apart for me is the hit detection, which is certainly a very big area, which makes it frustrating taking down the ghouls. Couple this with some crazy knockback when hit and forcing you onto platforms where you are unable to hit the enemy, and this game's combat will get frustrating quick. One positive is that while this game doesn't offer unlimited continues, once an enemy is defeated, it stays defeated, so technically, it still kind of does. Ghoul School is definitely an acquired taste, but one that I recommend you try at least once, and especially this time of year. You know what the scariest thing about Zombie Nation is? The price of the cart for collectors. Of course I'm kidding, it's definitely the disembodied floating head you play as, but this cart cost a fortune half a decade ago when I still followed prices, so I can only imagine how expensive it is now. Zombie Nation is definitely one of the weirdest games on the NES, where it's a shoot-'em-up where you control a disembodied, flying head of a samurai warrior who must travel to the US to recover a samurai sword from an alien who has let loose zombies, demons, and aliens to stand in your way. It's weird, and it's again from a weird publisher named Meldak and developed by Kays. Strangely enough, I do remember a ton of advertisement for this game in comics and magazines in the early 90s, despite it being a small publisher. The game is hard too. Sure, you get a huge life bar, but again, the giant head carries a large hitbox for a shoot-'em-up, and your health can deplete quickly, especially if you get caught in a laser beam. Weird game that is absolutely worthy of playing, but I don't feel it's worth the asking price for a collector. It's Frankenstein, the Monster Returns. Always a weird thing to say, as we always call the monster itself Frankenstein, when that's the name of the scientist and he is just the monster. But to make it easy here, let's just call the monster Frankenstein. In this game, he is back from the dead, and guess what? Also has strange magical powers that help him raise an army of the undead to stop you from reaching him and saving his bride-to-be. If you are looking for a side-scrolling action platformer that feels like a very shitty version of Castlevania, boy do I have a game for you. Frankenstein is actually pretty good and takes some interesting chances on a side-scrolling action platformer, such as tying in beat-em-up elements such as taking enemies' weapons and powers once you defeat them. Graphically, it's pretty good, music is decent, but the game is brought down by one key aspect. It's hard. This doesn't have the intuitive pick-up-and-play nature that Castlevania does, and you will literally have to grind against this unnecessary difficulty and weird design choices like this bird that takes you back to the beginning of the level for no reason. It's tough, but if that's something you dig, this can be a fun Halloween playthrough. Bram Stoker's Dracula is of course a movie tie-in to the celebrated film starring Keanu Reeves, Winona Ryder, and the diverse Gary Oldman, who plays Vlad the Impaler, also known as Dracula. There were so many versions of the game made for so many different platforms, but surprisingly, one of the best translations of this game to home consoles is on the NES, the home of so many bad movie tie-ins. The 8-bit version was made by Probe Software and released by Sony before their glory days with the PlayStation. In the game, you play as Keanu Reeves, Jonathan Harker, and you must escape the clutches of Count Dracula, follow him back to London, and end his reign of terror forever. I find the platforming to be very competent and fluid, and attacking using the various projectiles seems to be fairly intuitive. The biggest drawback again is difficulty, as it does not offer any continues, so get ready to familiarize yourself with the levels and enemies, and get good to see it to the end and kill Gary Oldman. Dracula. Okay, so I know most people are turning off this list right now, and that's fair, but honestly guys, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is a much better game than you'd think it is. You just have to see past the warts, and unfortunately, it's mostly warts right out of the gate. Where this game screws itself is you start out as Dr. Jekyll and play this slow, frustratingly slow trot along this platforming stage where your focus is on avoiding damage and hide frustration while everything in the town is out to get you. One wrong step and you get hit by the bomb and you automatically turn into Mr. Hyde. This is where the game gets good as you go on the offense in a dark world, walking backwards while punching a variety of demonish enemies and using the Psycho Wave to take down everything in your path. Then you seemingly die for no reason at all. What a stupid game, right? Well, it's actually super intricate, as what happens is you stay in hide form until you inflict enough damage to turn back. The key is, while you are doing this, you are backtracking the distance you achieve while playing as Jekyll, so the further you got, the better the chance you have of turning back. Two sides of the coin, late day progression and avoidance turns to nightmare rage attacking. Seriously, give it a try, you may be surprised how much you dig it. A popular title for YouTube reviewers to mention around this time of year, Monster Party opens the second half of this list and has the weird honor of being the third game on this list published by Bandai. Bandai Namco really liked the macabre, I guess, when they weren't making Pac-Man games. I have played Monster Party a bunch and even covered it on this channel before, but I still don't know where to begin with explaining it. It's a wild action platformer where you play as a kid with a baseball bat who is somehow aligned with a winged alien type creature that you fusion dance with at times to turn into a creature to traverse the dark realm. If that sounds super weird to you, that is because it is super weird, but you know what? Somehow it just works. The platforming all feels really good and the character controls exceptionally well in the game, so it gets extremely high marks there. The real control dynamic that I am impressed the most by is the baseball bat, and while it can simply be used to whack enemies, it's more impressively used to send projectiles hurling back towards the enemies that threw them in the first place, creating a wonderful, unique dynamic in a game of this style which adds a new level of complexity to dealing with enemies and especially boss fights. Outside of that is the absolutely bizarre enemy and stage design and sense of humor this game has. Truly one of the most messed up experiences on the NES, and a must for Halloween. 1, 2, Freddy is coming for you. I don't think anyone who's been following me for a while should be surprised to see this game show up on this list, or be talked about during Halloween, because it's not only one of my favorite Halloween games, but my favorite NES games too. This game usually gets a ton of hate as it was published by LGN, but is actually very good in my opinion, and one of the first Rare published games. You know, Rare? In the game, you play as a teenager that goes from location to location across Elm Street collecting Freddy bones while avoiding and attacking different dream enemies. The game also shifts back and forth between a awake and a sleep setting where the enemies get more difficult, and you can now use dream powers that you collect throughout the levels that will help both your attack and jumping. To stay awake in the awake levels or to wake up from the dream levels, there are cups of coffee and boomboxes that will aid you scattered throughout the levels. If you stay asleep too long, the Freddy alarm will go off and you will have to do a face-to-face with the dream demon himself. Overall, sure, this game has some warts, such as jumping seems overly floaty, but if you can get past that, there really is a special game here that is both challenging and fun, and guess what? Perfect for Halloween. One of the most iconic and celebrated spooky games on the NES, Ghosts and Goblins, is truly a great game. I have a rule, you see, that any game with unlimited continues can be beat, but there are two games that break that rule, and this just so happens to be one of them. Ghosts and Goblins is an early Capcom NES release and a port of the classic arcade game of the same name, and one of the hardest and most frustrating games of all time. You play as Sir Arthur as you will battle your way across hellish landscapes fighting off ghosts and goblins, of course, as well as mini-demons, zombies, and an assortment of nightmare creatures to rescue Prin Prin from the evil Demon King Satan. Along the way, you have to pick up various weapons which are dropped by enemies, and much like a shoot 'em up, your whole playthrough can come off the rails if you get the wrong weapon power-up. Here's looking at you, Torch. If there is one thing I have taken from AV Jan over the years, it's the advice he gave on this game, which is to get the knife, which is really the only sensible weapon to use in the game. And as many of you know, to see the true ending, you have to beat the game twice, so on top of being brutally unforgiving, you have to do everything one more time. Anyways, fun game that's perfect for Halloween, or making you feel like you want to put your fist through a TV. He's back, he's the man behind the mask, and he's purple and teal. Friday the 13th on the Nintendo Entertainment System has been a game that has resonated with me ever since I was a kid, and growing up I had absolutely no idea what I was doing and agreed with everybody that the game was terrible. I rented it once for an entire summer with my one goal being finally able to beat it, but after unsuccessfully lighting fireplaces and getting lost on the world's most confusing map, I was never able to take Jason down. That is until I got older and refound my love of the Nintendo Entertainment System in my late 20s and decided it was time I finally overcame this gaming blight of my past and learned how to play the game. The thing most people get frustrated with is this game is by no means straightforward and very much a survival horror with many intriguing elements that make it special. Once you figure out the game's unique quirks like how to get weapons and keys on the path, or the quickest route to be able to acquire a torch to do maximum damage on Jason, the game becomes much more enjoyable and much more plausible to beat. I know I have the skills and the talent to take down Jason, but the game is still very random, meaning that while I may take down Jason one game, not every game will play out exactly the same, keeping me coming back for more. I almost forgot to mention that this game features the ultimate jump scare with Jason, where he just appears out of nowhere, in a room, on the trail, or even in the lake. Get ready to try and not shit your pants. A great game for fans of horror movies and the NES, just like me, and a definite must-try for the spooky season. Of course, it's Castlevania sitting at number 1. I mean, could it have been anything else? With my other top 10 lists over the years, I've allowed multiple entries from the same series, but with this one, I felt like it was best to have them included as just one entry representing the series, which means truly that everyone should check out all 3 entries in the series on the NES for Halloween, probably before trying any other game I am recommending. If you only have time to check out one game in the series, of course I would recommend the first, as I think it's still the best in the series on the console, having the best overall gameplay, level design, and I know people might get upset about this, but the best music as well. If you are looking for a game that has all the classic Universal monster tropes, look no further, as we have a giant bat, Frankenstein, the Mummy, Medusa, and so many more, including the main man, Dracula himself. Honestly, I shouldn't have to say much more. Castlevania is NES royalty as one of the very best games of all time, and based on that fact alone, and its obvious horror theme, makes it a must-play for Halloween. And if you are an NES fan and not playing this game during the spooky season, get good, take Simon up the stairs, and defeat the Cookie Monster. Castlevania is awesome. Play Castlevania for Halloween. So guys, that's my list, my top 10 scary NES games for Halloween. Let me know down in the comments, do you agree with my list? Do you think that these are the 10 scariest, stupidest games for Halloween on the Nintendo Entertainment System? And if you disagree, let me know in the comments down below what games you would have liked to see. Is there one specifically missing, or do you think I was completely off base, and would you re-rank my top 10? Anyways guys, it's been way too long since I've done an NES video, a video focused on the Nintendo Entertainment System. It's been way too long since I've done a top 10, and it's been way too long since I've done some regular Halloween Havoc content. I always go into this month with the biggest of plans, looking to do the most stuff, something always seems to come up. This month, I had some health issues with my daughter getting sick, and then I got sick with this hand, foot, and mouth disease, and now I gotta go on this business trip, and time just slipped away, but I'm so glad I went out of my way to make sure I made this video, not just for my longtime viewers that have been doing this, following me and watching Halloween Havoc for all these years, for myself as well, because I forgot how much fun I have talking about these games. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, happy Halloween. Hope everything goes well. Hope you have fun. Bring your kids out collecting candy and all that stuff. And we'll see you next year. If you're just here for the Halloween stuff, hopefully I'll see you in November too. Anyways, guys, thank you so very much for watching. This is MichaelB the Game Genie, and I'll talk to you next time.